Alrighty, what's up, you dirtbags? This is a massive episode you're about to listen to. We just wrapped up with the man, Cory Carlson, legend, and I'm so excited for you guys to listen to it. Such a great episode. If you guys recognize the name, it is because you've probably read his book, Win at Home First by Cory Carlson. If you have not read it, definitely pick it up on Amazon and read it and listen to this episode. I've posted this on my story a few times. I've been reading his book. This was 4 or 5 months ago. And a lot of you guys swiped up and said, love that book or read it and XYZ. So I'm so excited for you guys to listen to him on the Dirtbags podcast. Like, what an honor to have him on the show. Unbelievable hair, looks great, and he is so wise. And don't miss this. At the beginning of the episode, he talks about wisdom and like how his wisdom is the DUMB, like wisdom. It's like, man, I'm going to start using that because what he has gone through and who he has learned from and all the mistakes he has made, that's the place he's coming from. And so if you haven't read his book, he talks a lot about, family and parenting, business. He has coached over 300 business owners. He's written 2 books now, Win at Home First and Rise and Go. He has spoken over 120 different keynotes, a dad, a husband, business owner, and he is the host of the Win at Home First podcast, which is in the top 1.5% globally for podcasts. So go check that out. It is awesome. And shout out here, he actually had me on the show, and that, if you guys are listening to this right now, it probably hasn't released, but that episode will be releasing on June 24th, where I was a guest on his podcast, Win at Home First. So do me a huge favor. If you guys do go and listen to that episode, say a few nice things, keep it clean. Don't say anything nasty about me. If you could make me look a little bit better, that would be very much appreciated. But no, he was awesome. And so when I was on his show, we were just talking after, and I was like, dude, you got to come on the Dirtbags podcast, because his platform, his book, his message, the way he coaches business owners, especially in construction, I was like, all right, do I have the platform for you? And these people, these listeners, they need to hear from you. So I'm just so excited for you guys to listen. Thank you guys. Without you guys listening, we wouldn't have a platform like this. We wouldn't be able to get people like Cory on the show. But man, what an opportunity. What a great time that we had. So if you guys are listening right now, it would mean a lot just to shoot me a message. Let me know you're listening. Let me know, what you're liking about the show, maybe what we could change. And then also too, if you really want to, toss a screenshot on your Instagram story saying that you're listening to the show, tag Official Dirtbags Podcast. We will always reshare those. And it really does just mean the world. Shows us like who's listening, because we can see all the metrics and the numbers, but just to see and hear from you guys really does mean a lot. So if you don't mind doing that, that'd be huge. If you haven't reviewed the podcast yet on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, jump on there, leave a 5-star review. That would be massive. And so with that, got to give a shout out to our hat sponsor of the episode. We got the Lynx Outdoor Services black on gray hat. Incredible. Lincoln, our guy out of Rochester, the man. He also has that tan hat too that I've worn before, but I had to go the black here for the episode, big episode, and huge shout out to Lincoln. He's always just crushing it up there. Go give him a follow at Lynx Outdoor Services. I'm pretty sure it is. Great content as well. And then as we dive into this episode, I'll mention it once or twice, but go give Cory a follow on LinkedIn. Cory Carlson. And while you're at it, if we're not connected on there, would love to connect with you. Luke Eggbeater. Just shoot me a connection request and we'll kick it off from there. So with that, I'm trying to think if I have any other updates. Phaser fundraiser coming up October 22nd. It's coming up in a few months, I guess. Thursday night, Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. It's our 6th annual. We're going to try and break 100K raised for the Boys and Girls Club of Detroit Lakes. If you guys want to come, absolutely shoot me a message. Let me know. You'd probably fly into Fargo or Minneapolis and drive up. Would love to have you guys there. And then if you can't make it, would love to have you as a sponsor. As you guys know, the money raised is typically from you guys, the listeners, and our clients at Phaser Marketing. Mostly every single sponsor is outside of Minnesota and just people that want to help the Boys and Girls Club of my hometown, Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. So if you do want to sponsor, all you got to do is shoot me a message, shoot me a text. Would love to have you on there. My cell is 218-234-7345, or you can shoot me a message on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, either Luke Egerbrotten, Phaser Marketing, or the Official Dirtbags Podcast. So I would love to have you guys jump in and help out there. We had 52 sponsors last year. We raised $70,000 from you guys, and we had the kids draw, hand make all of your logos. Um, and it's just an incredible, incredible event. So we'll have a bronze sponsorship at $750, gold at $1,500, and diamond at $3K. If you have any questions of what's included, feel free to reach out, and we'll talk more on it as we go. But you guys are amazing. I'm going to quit blabbing. You guys make this the best job in the world just for listening here. So I really, really appreciate it. I hope you really enjoy this episode with Cory, and let's dive into it. So with that, our guy, Joe Casey, is doing the ad reads now for the Dirtbags podcast. So listen to him. We obviously have Sledgehammer, Elgin, Charlie Huff. Joe absolutely crushed it. We figured you guys listen to my voice enough that you probably get sick of it. Joe is our business development manager and our head sales guy at Phaser. A lot of you guys already met him and know him. He is the man. So huge shout out to Joe for jumping in there, crushing those ad reads, and just making sure we give our sponsors the support they deserve. And now with that, Keegan, Brandon, Joe, let's cue the music. Let's have a great day today. And thank you all for listening. Let's bring in episode number 123 at home first with the man, the legend, Cory Carlson. All right, what's up, you dirtbags? My name is Luke Egerbrotten, and I could not be more excited to be with you all here today. This is a huge, huge episode. I know I said that the last 122 episodes, but no episode will top this one. This is episode number 123. You guys are going to absolutely love our guest. I know I just talked about him a little bit in our overview, but I am so, so excited to welcome in a good friend of mine into the Dirtbag studio. He is also a two-time author, a leadership coach of over 11 years, a speaker, a father, a husband, a business owner, and I'm going to welcome in Mr. Cory Carlson into the Dirtbag studio. Cory, how we doing, man?
Doing awesome, man. It's good to see you. I love our conversation when we did on my podcast a little bit ago. It was awesome. I've been looking forward to doing this on yours. It's fun, talking with people that value all areas of life. Not just the grind, not just hey, go get it done, but there's more to life. So it's fun to talk to you. Thanks for having me on here. And to the Dirtbags, I mean, can't even believe you can call people that. So awesome. But to the Dirtbags, thanks for being on this show.
Man, you're the perfect guest for our listeners here, and I know they're excited to hear you. And for those listening, Cory has a top 1.5% podcast globally, the Win at Home First podcast. Go check it out. Go subscribe to it on all platforms. And if you keep your eyes peeled, June 24th, there's a big episode drop. And as Cory was just saying, I got to be on his podcast. We had a great, great conversation, and then we just reciprocated it, and we had to get Cory on the Dirtbags here. So Cory, I'm excited to now be the host and interview you. But as you know, so much of this is just great wisdom and conversation and just being yourself. And so as a podcast host, I'm sure you've seen a lot of that. Like there's a little bit of preparation, but as you dive in, it's just organic conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said, great wisdom up ahead in this episode. And as a mentor told me, wisdom is spelled W-I-S-D-U-M-B. Wisdom is from the dumb mistakes I've made. And so anything I shared today about, hey, this is how to win at home, win at work, it's because I've lost at both places. I've lost, and I don't want another leader to lose at home or work. It's not an either or. It is, in fact, a both and it can be done. It's hard. It takes intentionality. So anyways, I look forward to, just talking about it. And you're right. We come up to these podcasts with questions, but then it becomes conversationalist, which just makes it more fun.
Man, I love that so much. And to give everyone some context too, this is kind of a wild story. So I had picked up this book so everyone can see. It is Win at Home First by Cory Carlson. I picked this up about 6 months ago and was reading it, and it was by my bedside, and my wife can attest to this. I'm not lying. And out of nowhere, it was right after Con Expo, I think, I get a DM on LinkedIn from Cory Carlson, and he's like, just mentioning, hey, I've been seeing your stuff. Love what you're doing for construction. Would love to have you on my podcast. And I was like, is somebody yanking my chain here? Because this is the actual book I'm reading. And so I looked you up, Cory, and sure enough, it was you. I was like about 40% through your book at that time. And I think that's just God putting us together at that right time. It's just so crazy how that all happened. But now as I've been on your podcast and you're on the Dirtbags now, I'm so excited to dive into an array of topics here. But I really want to start with just we mentioned you've coached over 300 business leaders. And what are some of the main things that you see in all of your experience here? And then we'll kind of dive in and backtrack. But what are you seeing with business leaders as you're coaching them and as you're walking with them through this through these chapters of life and business?
I was thinking about putting on my website for my coaching page is like no perfect leaders allowed.
Yeah.
I mean,
For
I
real.
think anyone who doesn't think they need a coach, doesn't think they need community, doesn't think they need some of these, components that I think all leaders have needed for a while. But man, right now in 2026, because we're just drifting and drifting and drifting more and more towards isolation with our phones, with TV, with whatever it is, and we've just become lonelier. And so the reason I say no perfect leaders allowed is that's what I found with coaching. Is when I first started, I was intimidated with who was on the other side of the coffee table or the Zoom camera. And as I started coaching, I'm just not. I mean, yeah, when I have my first call with somebody, yeah, I'm a little, nervous, if you will. They may lead a team of 500 people. They may lead a team of 10 people. They've done some cool things. And so, yeah, I want to show up well, perform well, and add value to their life. But the reason I'm not as nervous anymore is because everyone has brokenness
Hmm.
and they're trying to figure out how to navigate. As I engage with my clients and even prospects, we're all struggling through ups and downs of our marriage at different times, through parenting, through having purpose, or are we facing burnout at work, or I'm exhausted, then this project's up, or the quarterly earnings aren't where they need to be. It's just we all feel this pressure. So what I see a lot, not only in that brokenness, but that brokenness then attaches to self-limiting beliefs. That leaders are having self-limiting beliefs that they just don't think that they can get to that next notch. They don't think they can lead the company well. Are they the right person? Can I really take this company to the next level? Can I lead my family well? And so I think a big item I see with a lot of leaders, Luke, is one, there's just brokenness, there's wounds. And so we have to have that self-awareness to know it. Second is if we're not careful, those can create self-limiting beliefs, and we've got to know how to destroy them.
Hmm. Man, something that is so valuable that I think that you have is perspective, because it's one thing to have the wisdom, DUMB, and go
Mhm.
through it all, but also uh, to see everyone else's wisdom and to get to sit in those same rooms and to realize that the, there aren't all these levels to it, right? And sure, if it's 500 people or 10 people company, everyone is broken, like you mentioned, and everyone is trying to learn and get better. And so what are some of those traits that you look at in some of those leaders, those imperfect leaders, which we all are, that can show that they can have, and this may be too broad of a term, but success? Like, what are some of those attributes that a good leader has that you look at them and you say, this person is going to be successful in however they define it?
Yeah, I would think a combination of courage and humility.
Hmm.
I mean, courage, they take risks, they make moves, but yeah, humility to say they need help from each other. And so that would be kind of a broad piece of just courage, humility. So if I'm talking to a prospect and I hear a lot of I, not team, they just kind of seem like a punk. I may not even really offer up me to coach them, like even
Hmm.
give them a price, and just because I'm like they don't want to learn. But what's interesting though, Luke, so I also run a community called Rise. We've got
Hmm.
115 plus, it's for men only, but 115 plus men in there. We talk home, work, and faith. But when people join Rise, and I also will weave this in my one-on-one coaching, but when they join Rise, they fill out a scorecard. And a lot of times I like to do the scorecard with them because it's part of the onboarding. I get to know them. because not only do they just give me a score or number, but they're also giving me some additional information.
Yep.
But the scorecard is around 5 capitals, which I talk about in my book. But these 5 capitals, I did not create this. I learned this in 2013. When I hired my first coach, I had learned this content. And the reason I just share that or share the date is that's the value of like coaching or, community or investing in yourself is what you learn now you can use for life. Like I learned this 5 capitals in 2013, so I'm still using it, even though I don't work with that coach any longer. My kids know it. I've shared it. It becomes with my kids. We talk about what are our goals for this year in our 5 capitals. And so it's, it basically, it's kind of evergreen in the standpoint I get to use it. But in the 5 capitals, the first one's spiritual. And it is, for some on this podcast, it is faith. It's your relationship with God. For others, it may not be faith. It's kind of Mother Nature or it's white space. But all of us as leaders, we need more time in solitude.
Yep.
To reflect, to journal, to pray, to meditate, whatever that is. We all need it. Because in spiritual capital is where we get wisdom and discernment. The second one is relational capital. This is your relationship with your spouse, with your fiance, with your boyfriend, girlfriend. These are your friends. This is parenting. Next is physical capital. This is about the time and energy you have to invest in others. So if you're not eating right, drinking right, you're not going to have any energy.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth is intellectual capital. So it's not only listening to podcasts, such as this one, reading books, such as our books, but it's implementing.
Mm-hmm.
What are you implementing into your life so you're different? I actually just had a new Rise member today. We did the scorecard. I said, "How are you on reading?" And he said, "I'm a 10." And the next question was, "How are you on implementing?" And it was like a gut punch. He said, "Man, I'm not very good. I'm giving myself a 4." And I think that's a big thing because information plus implementation will lead to transformation. If we just read books and listen to podcasts and we're not doing, are we really any different?
Can you say that again, Cory? Information.
Yep. Information plus implementation leads to transformation.
Man, so good. Love that.
And then the last capital, the 5th capital, is financial capital. And so this isn't just about making money. I mean, that is an element to it, but it's also about your generosity and your stewardship. So those are the 5 capitals. And so, Luke, you asked kind of a trait, what do I see about different leaders? What I see a lot is a lot of leaders, they stop dating their spouses. They may not have friends. They're going at it as a lone wolf. They usually don't have any quiet time or solitude. They're not taking care of their bodies through sleep. They don't need sleep. They just drink some energy drinks. So those are some, I see some of those things pop up through the survey, through my discussions, and then we start working on it. Because if you want to be a leader with sustainable success, you've got to win at both home and work.
Hey dirtbags, this is Joe from Phaser Marketing, and I'm here with this brief pause to let you know that this episode of the Dirtbags podcast is brought to you by Sledgehammer, where science meets sustainability. At Sledgehammer, they're not just treating wastewater, they're transforming it. By introducing cutting-edge microbiology into conventional septic systems, Sledgehammer is making waves in the world of environmental engineering. Their secret? It's not high-tech hardware, it's smart biology. The Sledgehammer blend is a powerful, proprietary mix of naturally occurring bacteria that supercharges your existing septic system, turning it into one of the most effective and eco-friendly wastewater treatment systems on the planet. Sledgehammer systems are NSF 40 certified for single-family engineered designs and rigorously tested to the IMPO IGC 180 2003 standard for both proactive and rejuvenation applications. They're also listed under the Uniform Plumbing Code, giving you confidence in quality, safety, and compliance. It's clean, it's efficient, and best of all, it's sustainable. No chemicals, no overhauls, just a smarter way to protect our water and preserve our planet. To learn more about how Sledgehammer is reinventing wastewater treatment for a greener future, check them out at sledgehammer.net and check them out on Instagram at Sledgehammer Group Ltd, where you can learn more about their installer network partnership program. And check out AK Industries and HydroAction for their trifecta of all your needs for wastewater solutions.
Yeah, man, that's so good. And I also want to clarify too, this just popped in of if somebody's listening and they're not an entrepreneur, what Corey's saying here isn't just only business owners and only CEOs. This is just being a leader, right? And you look at throughout companies, there are leaders all throughout the company. So if you're listening to this and you're an employee or a team member, like these absolutely apply, of course, because it's how you come into work every single day, spiritual, relational, physical, intellectual, financial. And Corey, would you say it's always a process of working on one of those capitals and adjusting and changing, or how would you go about ranking those? Do you start with the lowest that you feel least confident in, or what would you do if you were coaching somebody?
That's great. I do want to go back and reiterate that this is for anybody, no matter if you're bottom at the top of the corporate ladder, whether you're in a company or entrepreneur, solopreneur, of one of 1,000 people at a company. I hired my first coach when I was in corporate America.
Hmm.
That's when I hired my first coach. I wasn't running a company. I was just, kind of in the grind with everyone else. I was losing, and it looked good on the outside because I got the big fancy promotions. I just got promoted over my boss. I was now managing him, so everything looked good on the outside, but on the inside, I felt like an imposter. I had that imposter syndrome. I was skipping the gym, skipping quiet time. So that's why I hired a coach, because I needed help. Like,
Hmm.
what was working for me, I knew wasn't going to work forever. So I'm glad you reiterated that, because it works really at all facets of life. Now, as far as the five capitals, the right order from top to bottom is that spiritual, relational, physical, intellectual, financial, and you want to try to get them in that right order. Now, you are exactly right. Something can get messed up, and one of them needs focus. It needs a little bit of additional focus.
Hmm.
You're relational. If I mention anything about spouses or friends and it's like, ooh, that's me. Well, we got to invest some time and energy to it. If you're struggling financially, that needs some focus to put some energy there. But here's what I would propose as how you address all of your challenges. You start at the top, spiritual. You don't have any money, you don't have any, your job's not working out well. Well, let's pray about it. Let's meditate. Let's spend some time on thinking about what's the right next move. Let's try to discern the next move as opposed to just hustling. Hey, let's come up for air. After spiritual, ask some people how to help you. Have humility to say, hey, I'm struggling with my job. I need some help. I don't understand. I thought this idea was great. It would be successful in the market. I'm taking the market, but no one's buying. What's the matter with it? Ask somebody. Your marriage, if it's not going well, pull in some relational capital. And then physical capital, which is that third one, it's going to take time and energy.
Yeah,
And so
for sure.
you have to spend some time on it. So any problem that anyone has, I encourage, start at the top, work your way down.
Man, I love that too, because and a lot of people might call it a pillar of life or a priority or the five capitals, and really it's all saying the same thing. And just I'm a big believer. If somebody asks me for advice of how to grow their marketing agency or their construction company, one of the best and most effective ways, in my opinion, to grow your company is to start working on yourself first. And the
Mm-hmm.
way you come into work, and really that's why I think your book resonated with me so much, is that I'm a big believer in if you want it to work at your company, you have to fix yourself first. And you're not going to be fixed and perfect and all that, but you have to improve and you have to build this discipline and you have to take care of these five capitals, and that will bleed into your company. And so
Mm-hmm.
I love that when you're always just trying to work on yourself and be the best man or woman that you can be, and always seeking that improvement. So, and I think a lot of this too, Corey, is you have to have clarity, and you mentioned it too, is just like facing. You have to admit that uh, really face the issues or face the vulnerabilities and see what's going on. And so just having that clarity, maybe for people listening, is the first step of where do I even start?
Absolutely. You mentioned like capitals, pillars. I want to double down the word capital. That word is intentional in
Mm,
the standpoint of just like everyone listening, this is in the construction space. If you get capital, to go buy equipment, you want an ROI. You want a return on that investment. So any iron that you have out there working, you're expecting to get an ROI back. Same thing in these 5 capitals. Any time, talent, treasures I have, I want an ROI in everything I invest in. And I believe you spend time in spiritual capital, your ROI is going to be greater than intellectual capital.
Yeah.
Because wisdom is greater than knowledge. And intellectual capital is lower on the totem pole now because anyone could be the smartest in the room. Anyone could chat GPT or have some agent working for them, some Claude agent working for them. So intellectual's down here, but man, that spiritual capital, that wisdom, that discernment, that's got a greater ROI. And next is the people piece. That's got a greater ROI than money. I mean, we all know people who have had lots of money, but boy, they're lonely.
Yeah.
That didn't work out very well. So the
And-
capital is intentional in the fact that there is an ROI and way we spend our time and energy.
Yeah, that's such an excellent point too, of just the prioritization of them too. And there's a reason why they're listed out that way, and we can't get confused and jumble them up. And I think taking a look at your personal life here and like, what are your priorities in life, and maybe there's one or two flipped or a little bit different. And for me, I always just ask is, where does business fall in my priority list? And we talked about this on your show, and to be clear, like there's no right or wrong answer for anyone, but for me, it's my faith, my wife, my soon-to-be kids.
Let's
Or
go.
kid. First one, come on, July, here we go, and then everything else, basically. And business falls into that, everything else, like with the family, the friends, business, and all that. But Cory, I wanted to actually take this time to ask you. Obviously, you are a father. You talk a lot about winning at home first, marriage, parenting, all of this. For myself and for any mothers or fathers listening, what advice do you have for somebody who's about to head into this journey of parenthood? So for me, we're due July 11th here. We're coming up on our first kid. What advice would you have for a new parent listening, and of course, including myself?
That's great. Man, new parent, I when you have your kid, keep dating your wife. Keep dating. The 3 of you sitting around on the couch, and that's awesome. That's great. But get out and just spend time as a couple. And I would start soon as everyone feels comfortable leaving your baby with parents or babysitters, whatever it is. But I would start dating quick, because as somebody who has older kids, the kids, unfortunately, they move out of the house.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that strong marital foundation, well, bad things can happen. I mean, you have no identity other than your kids. You have no identity other than your kids' sports or your kids' dance or whatever the kid does. And then they move out. You look at each other like, who are you? What's going on? And it sounds all kind of silly now when you're looking at, hey, I still got 18 years until they move out. Yeah, but you 18 years of compounding interest of one direction or the other. It's either compounding interest of we dated or compounding interest of we drifted. You've got the choice. And so my encouragement is jump in early by continue just to date. Not only do you want to date for each other, that when the kids do move out, you know who they are, but science shows that kids who see their parents love each other, who see their parents date each other, leave the house with more confidence and security than those who don't get to witness their parents love each other.
Yeah.
So do it for yourself, but also do it for your kids.
Yeah.
Because they will be stronger, more confident, because they know their home is a safe place. And so you model that quick. Also, still make time for friends.
Yeah.
Still make time for friends. Don't overswing and you're gone all the time because you're working and you're making time for friends. Hey, I'm golfing all the time or hunting all the time because that one guy in that one podcast says, be with your friends.
Cory says.
Yeah, Cory says. No, but still make time for friends. I made earlier on in our marriage, I made a mistake thinking my wife would never want me to go on guy trips. So I never
Mm.
really asked her. I just kind of always said no on my own until one. Now, if I was going out with, I was about to say dirt bags, but I can't because that's your
Hey, that's a
podcast people. Man. I'm
compliment
going to say
around here.
jerks. I'm going to say jerks. If I was going out with a bunch of jerks and they were just, talking about women and getting hammered and doing all these things, of course my wife wouldn't want me going out with those guys
Yeah.
all the time. But if you surround yourself with good guys, or for the women listeners, good women, when I go out with those guys, man, my wife loves it because I come back
Mm.
energized. I have new ideas to incorporate into our family. I've laughed a lot. I've had fun. And so spend time with friends and do the guy trips, do the woman trips for the ladies, and encourage them to get out and do the same. I love when my wife goes on ladies trips, and because same thing, she's laughed, she's had some great conversations. She brings ideas back into the marriage. So keep dating, keep hanging out with friends. I could keep going on, but I'll take a breather here for you.
This is so good, Cory. And I know right after you and I recorded the episode on your podcast, I was going on a men's retreat for our church. And that is just also, too, as you're talking, I'm like, that is exactly like my wife is so excited for me to go. I have an absolute blast. I come with new ideas, filled up, closer to God and closer to these men that have played such a big role and impact in my life. And you're so right, because the same guys trip can look totally different in a different setting. And it's not to say that you can't go do other things, but I think it totally depends on who you're surrounding yourself with and what you're doing. And is that championing our Lord and Savior? Is that championing your wife, your spouse, and your kids? And if they were along, would they be proud of you? And I think that's probably a deep question a lot of us have to ask: is if your kids and your spouse were around, would they be proud of how you're talking, what you're doing, what you're getting into, and all of that? And I think that's the role model we're trying to be and the role model we're trying to build into. So I think that's really glad you touched on that and talked about that, because I think to where you're going also, you need independence. And
Mhm.
yes, you need to date and be the father and mother of your children. We also need to learn how to be independent of how to act on a work trip and how to go act with a bunch of guys and all of this. So I think that's very important, as well as learning how to be independent separate from your spouse and then come back with those ideas as well.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I don't know if I have those friends. I don't know if I have those
Mm.
friends that make me better. Well, first of all, it's self-awareness. Awesome. Nice work that you're identifying it. Um, and that's a hard situation to be in. And because if you want to grow and be a better version of yourself, well, some of them aren't going to let you. I think this illustration is fascinating, that if you put crabs in a bucket, you do not need a lid. They pull, when someone's trying to climb out, they pull each other down. That's the same thing. If you hang out with a bunch of average people, if you try to get yourself out of that bucket, they're going to pull you down.
Mm.
It's weight loss. If you hang out with everyone's a little bit overweight, you're hanging out with no one's really into physical fitness, and you're throwing down a whole bunch of food and beers, and but you start trying to lose weight, odds are they'll say something negative like, that's not going to last. You won't be able to keep up with it. Come on, man. Just, eat the double cheeseburger and have all the fries. Nothing wrong with that. I just had a double cheeseburger the other day. But I'm saying if
Yeah,
that's
right.
every single meal. But it's one of those deals where so you may have to just do a complete reset and find some
Mm.
new friends. And it may be a one at a time. And it can happen. Part of my story, Luke, is when I was president of sales for this particular company a few years ago. Well, it's getting greater than that now, but I was super employee during the week. I was traveling all the time. I was, giving my best to my employees. And then on the weekend, I was trying to be super husband and super dad. Well, eventually I get to this point where I'm burned out.
Yeah.
I feel empty. And I was talking to my coach and I explaining this, and my coach just goes, I know what the problem is. I was like, what's the problem? And he goes, you have no friends. I was like, what do you mean I got no friends? And, I did have buddies I could go have a beer with. I did have buddies I could go have a coffee with, but I had no friends of depth at that time in my life.
Wow.
I drifted. I was all about work, and then I was even all about family. So I mean, it was but I had dropped off the friend piece. And so I put together a list of 15 guys, true story. I put together a list of 15 guys I went speed dating. And I met, for a lunch or a drink. And if we just talk surface level, like sports and weather, I was like, I'm out. I'll find somebody else. But for those where we went a notch deeper to something of significance, like the ups and downs of our marriage, facing burnout at work, or how my teenage daughter's hard, we're in a season of not getting along well. And then maybe even went to a deeper level of spiritual. I was like,
Yeah.
I want more. I want more of this individual. And so I put together a group. On Thursday mornings we meet. And once a year, that's an annual trip I go with these guys. But I share the story because there was a moment where I didn't have these guys. I went and created them because I was at a place of, loneliness, of just surface level friends. I want ones of more depth. So if you're a listener and you're like, oh, that's kind of me. Well, just start meeting some guys, seeing if you can get to a greater depth of conversation, and then spend more time with them. Here's what I also know to be true, Luke, is there's many guys who are waiting for that phone call. They're waiting for the text to hang out. They're waiting for that fire pit invite. But they just don't have the courage to send it out themselves, so they're waiting to receive. So everyone listening to this, you're a leader. Step out, lead, and someone needs a friend right now, and you may be their friend.
What's up, you dirtbags? I'm Joe from Phaser Marketing, and I have the unbelievable honor to talk to you about insurance. I know it's not the sexiest topic, but hang on with me for just a quick minute, because this is important. If you're running an excavation, grading, or any kind of dirt moving business, you know the right insurance can make or break you. And that's where my man, Charlie Huff, comes in. Charlie isn't just some random insurance guy either. He's one of us. He grew up in a shop, he worked in the trades, and now he's dedicated his career to protecting dirt world companies like yours. His team is full service, fast, and relentless when it comes to getting you the best coverage at the best price. They flip over every rock, negotiate hard with carriers, and make sure you're not just covered, but covered right. And the best part, they make it easy. Need a COI? It's done. Adding or removing equipment, he's got it handled. Got an audit coming up? No sweat. They take the insurance headaches off your plate so you can get back to running your business. So if you want an agent who actually gets it, hit up Charlie Huff at 435-764-4833 to get your insurance dialed in.
Yeah, man, that's huge. And I'd say too, even with this podcast, we've seen that where a lot of people are finding friends through the show and through social media. And then when we do get together at Con Expo or some of these big conferences, it's like these guys are my friends. As weird as that sounds, these are my friends. These are the people who I connect with on business, on faith, on life, on just the content and their drive. Because I will say this, that sometimes, let's say somebody listening is in a small town. Like sometimes the amount of people there and the people you want to surround yourself with, just they may not be available. And I think going outside of that circle, instead of just it has to be my local area, it could be somebody like, hey, who could I reach out to that I really look up to online, or I heard this podcast. And that's why, Cory, every single time we always give the person's like LinkedIn and their Instagram handle, and we said shoot them a message. You never know that they're a great, nice person. They may shoot you a message back, and that has blossomed into so many friendships, from people listening to connecting with our guests and all of this. And it's amazing, because I think part of it, you need to keep your head up and educate yourself and listen and look around, and you have to make a decision to strive to be better. Otherwise, you'll fall back into just doing what you've always been doing. And so I love that too, of just your coach calling it out of just, you don't have any friends. And you're like, you know what? Because, and I love this conversation, because you talk about work-life balance. Some people think it's just two things: work, life being your family. And it's like, are there not other facets? Are there not hobbies? Are there not men that you spend time with? And are there not, other passions in your life? And so I think being well-rounded in this work-life balance and multifaceted potentially could bring some fulfillment as well.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, having friends, having fun. That's an F word we don't say a lot,
Yeah, for real.
in the world is just go and have fun. When is the last time you laughed? Or, I think it's fascinating that the root word of rejuvenate. Everyone, not that that word's used a lot, but hey, I want to go on a retreat. I want to rejuvenate. Or the root word is to feel youthful.
Hmm.
And I think anytime we all have been like, that was a good day, it's like we were laughing hysterically, or, we were riding a bike, or we were doing something that felt youthful. And man, we need to figure out how to lean more into that. All of us, and stop taking ourselves so seriously.
Man, I'm so glad you brought that up because that has definitely been on my heart. Gosh, I think it was at church we were talking about this because when you're young, all you want to do is have fun and have joy, and you're often uh, taught to grow up. We'll say that, right?
Yep.
And grow up. And then as you get older, you're just trying to find that joy again and that fun. So you're doing it backwards almost. And I thought so it was our pastor, he had long story short, he had yelled and scolded his kids that were having fun in the bathtub and splashing water everywhere, and he had to really take himself back because truly he robbed their joy in that moment. And sure, of course, there's rules and everything, but he felt so bad because he robbed their joy and to where they stopped screaming, stopped playing, stopped having fun. And then you think of as adults, it's like who are some of the most just entertaining adults that you just look up to? You're like, man, that person just feels so positive and active and they just love life. What's going on? I truly think they found their inner joy and like just being a kid again and using their imagination and not overthinking what people think about them. And you think of that's how a child thinks. And I just think that's so interesting because we start that way and we learn to go this other way of growing up. And are we just trying to
It's so good.
find what that is there? And so, yeah, I just thought that was so interesting you brought that up because it's definitely something that we've been working on. And like, why are we doing this in reverse order?
That's great. And my wife and I have always joked that, man, we just don't want to cause any wounds to our kids that they will be talking about at some fire pit as adults, at some like church ministry. Like, I used to have fun until my parents yelled at me in the bathtub. I mean,
Yeah.
we joke like that. A friend of mine, got named, I'll give his name, Calvin Renfro. He's our high school football coach, and he uses this acronym called JOY. To have joy in your life, you have to get Jesus first, then others, then yourself.
Hmm.
And instead, and don't yodge it up, which is yourself, others, then Jesus.
Yeah.
And I do think that is so true when we're so about ourselves, taking ourselves seriously, navel gazing. It's hard to have joy.
Hmm.
But man, when you're just thinking about your relationship with God, how can you bless others? How can you be an encouragement to somebody else? It changes. How can we encourage our kids and they're splashing around having fun? But I get it. I mean, I can be a high challenge dad. I
Yeah.
get it.
This comes from a guy with 0 kids right
Yeah,
now, so
yeah.
take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
Uh,
yesterday I had to walk around the house and touch up paint from where there's marks on our house. So sometimes fun does have some consequences.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think for the adults listening, I think that's probably the biggest point we can take away is how can we find some of that joy? Like, set the phone down, go outside, go play in the woods, go on a hike, let your mind wander, go ask people questions, maybe start there. That's why I love hiking because, especially with people, friends, because you're hiking, you're outside, you don't have your phone, and you're just like, let's strike up a conversation. And the it's funny because the people you love to spend time with are really good listeners and really good at asking questions. And
Mhm.
it's just that the power of um or How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yep.
Sorry, the
Yeah, Dale Carnegie. Yeah.
Dale Carnegie, such a great book, an
Yeah,
all-time
great
classic.
book, and yeah, just having that curiosity, folks. But yeah, no, I do think everyone. How can we be more fun?
Yeah.
A little bit ago, I got invited to go dog sledding with a client.
Okay. Where
Yeah,
at?
it was yeah, pretty sweet. So, anyways, he invites me, and It was actually a Zoom call, just like this. On a Zoom call, I get invited to go dog sledding, and right away, I have what's called Raynaud's. It basically blood will flow away from my fingertips and my toes when I start to get cold. It's annoying. There's worse diseases or things to have. I get it, but anyways, I get really cold, and sometimes it hurts. And so as he's talking to me about dog sledding, I am literally trying to think of excuses not to go.
Yeah, right.
My hands get cold. I'm really busy at work. I have a lot going on. Man, I wonder how much this is going to cost. I wonder how much time this is going to take. Will this really be that fun? I have all these excuses. And I don't know if he could see all my excuses through my head. But he says, oh, and I got another ticket. Have your son come along.
Hmm.
And then I already had other excuses going through. Like, oh my goodness, I have to take him out of school and all this. He goes, I said, all right, I'll talk to him. I don't know if we'll be able to do it or not, but I'll get back to you. So day's over. I then see my son. And I walk up to my son. I say, hey, bud, I got a question for you. He goes, what, man? Or dad, what, dad? I said, do you want to go dog sledding? He goes, yes. What's dog sledding? And I was like, that's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
he just, because I invited him as his father, he knew I would invite him to something fun or safe or whatever. He knew I was looking out for him. I wouldn't invite him to something like dumb. But because I invited him, his first response as a kid, as youth, was, yes, I want to do it. And so to your point, it's like, hey, how can we be fun and be quicker to say yes when it comes to invites like that, as opposed to what I was doing, which was already coming up with excuses.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was a timely conversation in the standpoint of that. Now, I'm not pro yes all the time. We can talk about saying no and pruning and clean up your schedule. You don't have to go all the meetings you do. And those are two different nuances of yes and no. But when it comes to saying yes to invites and fun and stretching yourself, man, you respond like my son did. Yes.
Yeah.
What's dog sledding?
It's so freeing too. And I actually do want to touch on that too, because being able to say no allows you to say yes, right? We'll start there of pruning and maybe let's dive into that, Cory. Do you have any strategies on auditing your day? Let's say as a leader or somebody as an employee. Actually, we'll stick with this as a business owner listening to this podcast. What advice do you have on how they can maybe win their day or control where their time is being spent? Saying no to things, their calendar, anything. Any advice that you have for them?
Man, I wish I had a nice, succinct flow chart of kind of how it went, and I don't. So anything I say may overall be confusing to listeners. So I apologize for that. But yes, I do think about my calendar. I thought about it even when I was back in corporate, because now I work with myself and with a team, but kind of my own boss. So it's a little different. But a lot of these practices I put into place back when I was in corporate. And I am teaching others. I'm sharing others to have some of the same, thought process. Luke, you did say a statement that I love this quote: "The quantity of our no's will drive the quality of our yeses."
Yeah.
The quantity of our no's will drive the quality of our yeses. So the more time you say no, then when you do say yes, you want to go there. Many of us say yes to everything. We say yes to every meeting, yes to every happy hour, yes to every barbecue, yes to everything. And then when we have to go, it's like, oh man, do we really have to go?
Mm-hmm.
Honey, do we really have to go to this thing? Do we really have to go to this church service and volunteer? Do we really have to go to this nonprofit? Like, it can even be good things that we are overcommitting to. Then when you show up, we're given 80%. But if you say no more, then when you say yes, you're all in. You're able to be the best version of yourself. You're able to sit and be empathetic with the person on the other side of that table, or curious, as we talked about, people asking great questions. And so, yeah, be mindful of what you're saying yes and no to. Absolutely. I definitely think of those 5 capitals. That's a filter I use.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I also there was a time at corporate when I said yes to everything. You want to invite me to a happy hour? I'm there because I was networking. Maybe I can move up the corporate ladder a little faster. I said yes to all these associations. I said yes all the time. That's part of the reason how I got burned out.
Hmm.
I was like, hey, I need to make different choices. So now, man, I have to think long and hard if I'm going to travel or if I am going to even have an evening function where I live, which is Cincinnati.
Yep.
Now, I do say yes. We just had our first Rise retreat like 2 weekends ago. I was traveling to Charlotte the week before that, Kansas City the week before that. Those are different speaking engagements. So I chose to say a few extra nights for friends and family. But I just don't say yes anymore. I'm slower to do it. The old me used to always say yes for people pleasing.
Hmm.
I don't want to make people mad. And so that was my own insecurity. But now to the point of, hey, I want to think it through. Because there's other things that are more priority. There are many times I said yes to some individual I may never see again, but I said no to my wife and my kids.
Yeah. Wow.
That's a miss. Partly, Luke, one reason I'm so big on winning at home, and work, but that win at home first idea, over my 20-year career, I had 18 bosses and one family.
Hmm.
I said yes to bosses. I don't know where they live right now. I don't even know if they're still alive. I know it sounds kind of morbid, but I said yes. I made sacrifices. I worked late. I went to this happy hour because I did all these things for 18 bosses who I sacrificed for my one family. And you just got to be careful when you do that because no one's going to remember you work late. No one's going to remember you work the weekends except for your kids and your spouse.
Yeah. And I would even go a step further, Cory, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. A lot of the business owners, and we'll stay in construction maybe, uh, I see that there's if you say no, we'll start there. If you say no, that's a lack of work ethic. And this work-life balance, if you say no and you say yes to your family, or if you don't work 7 days a week, or if you uh, don't take that next job, but it almost like, aren't those just holes in and I get it, business is so hard, but are there other fixes that they could make? And I guess where I was going with that is profitability, their prices, their expenses, clarity, but also too of just, if you say yes to everything, you're going to suffer. I would assume, right? If you say yes to everything, your whole life seemingly will suffer. But also, is that a lack of work ethic if you start saying no? And I think just, what are your thoughts on that?
Saying yes is easy. And I may say something that will be offensive to some. It's lazy.
Hmm.
Just run around saying yes. In the fact is lazy because you don't have your own filter that you're using to make decisions. You aren't weighing the cost. We're supposed to weigh the cost before before you go do a project, you weigh the cost. All right. You do the estimate for the construction project. You need to even do that on a decision. What are the costs of saying yes to this? And really thinking it through of what that looks like. I mean, you gave some different examples. I'm trying to think the best way to, kind of go after this as far as what would be most helpful to the listeners, but it is not weak if you say no.
Yeah.
Saying no is actual strength because you are standing up for what you believe in. And that belief is your family. That belief is your health. That belief is saying no to a low margin job so you can go give your best at a high margin job. And so put energy towards thinking what your decision criteria is and then hold true to it.
Hey, dirtbags. It's Joe from Phaser Marketing, and I'm here to tell you this episode of Dirtbags Podcast is brought to you by Elgin, a pioneer in on-site wastewater treatment and a company built on purpose. For over 4 decades now, Elgin's been leading the charge in innovative, reliable, and engineer-friendly septic solutions. Their signature GSF system is NSF 40 certified, ASTM tested, and designed to thrive in even the most unpredictable soil conditions. With its multi-stage filtration process, smaller footprint, and lower maintenance, it's become the trusted go-to for contractors who want performance they can count on. But what really makes Elgin stand out is their heart. They've made it a priority to hire and support U.S. veterans, helping them transition from the military to meaningful careers in the trades. It's not just about systems, it's about service. Whether you're a contractor, an engineer, or a supplier looking to elevate your installs, Elgin brings you innovation, integrity, and impact all in one system. Learn more about Elgin at elgin.com and give them a follow on Instagram at Elgin Corporation to see install tips, product updates, and how they're giving back to those who served.
Man, I was boarding a plane this a few years ago. There was a coach out there that I wanted to learn from. And I was boarding the plane. I'm filling out this application, which I thought that was pretty cool. Hey, man, if this guy's going to hire me, I got to fill out this application. Wow. And then it says, if this application is not filled out, your appointment will be deleted. I was kind of like, yeah, right. I did not complete the application because I ended up hitting the plane and no Wi-Fi for a while, all that jazz, and I didn't get to it. The guy canceled the appointment. He never wanted to meet with me. And I was like, that's amazing. I had more respect for him for canceling on me because that guy lives an abundant mindset. He doesn't live with scarcity. He lives with this abundant mindset that there's going to be enough clients out there. I will be fine. And I think as all of us, we have got to shift from striving to more of stewardship. Yes, there is a season where you have to work really hard. I get it. There's a season when, you may have to do that 6-7 days a week. I'd still push back on the seventh day because we need to rest. It's even a command of the Sabbath. But even if you just do 6 days, you've got to rest, man. You've got to rest. And so what my encouragement, I had to do this in my own life, but just for others I work with, is many of us go from striving.
Yeah.
And then we surrender either because something happened to us, someone threatened to walk out on us, we found ourselves in a hospital because of an anxiety attack. I've got all kinds of stories from clients that I work with. And then once they are hit with some event, some change and start to submit, to God in this understanding of, hey, I am going to work more responsible hours. I am going to be taking care of my health and my family. And it becomes more about stewardship and really kind of, thinking that way. And so for me, this hit me in 2020 when I launched into coaching. When I launched into coaching, COVID hit. And I was so mad and I was so frustrated. And for me, I was mad at God. Like, hey, I left corporate. I jumped out. What about you? Like, you left me hanging. And I was so frustrated and scared because I lost, I was 43 years old, lost a lot of revenue, 3 kids. My wife, doesn't work by that's our family design. I was like, what's next? And so I was mad. And so it caused me to start to strive and work all the time, especially when you're a solopreneur that does coaching and speaking and content creation. It's always like, I got to create more content. I got to go find speaking engagements. I need to go find a podcast to be on. And I found myself working all the time. And even though I knew work-life balance, even though my first book was on work-life balance, I just found myself in this piece of striving. And well, I'll throw in basically part of my journey. It is a Bible verse, Psalm 127, 1 and 2. Unless the Lord builds the house, he who gets up early labors in vain. And there's a little bit more in the additional verses. But basically, when I read that, I kind of felt like I had this audible. I don't think it was an audible voice, but it was inside me. And it was, hey, I've got the night shift. You take care of the day shift. I get it. God is 24/7. He's omnipresent. I get it. But the language I needed to hear was, you work hard from 8 to 5 and I'll take care of the rest. You can do your family dinners and be present and have the phone put away. You can go meet your buddies. You could go to the gym. You could take the weekends off. And this whole idea of we control the input, God controls the impact. And I think that's true for every single listener here. Is if where are we putting our trust? Is it in ourselves? There's so much that goes on that's out of our control. The roads we drive on, the water we drink, everything we've done has been done before us, by others. Same is true with our business. Things are happening. People are thinking about, assuming your messaging is great, right? And you've hired Luke and his team
Let's go.
to help you out.
Thank you for that plug.
Assuming the messaging right, assuming you got a right product, assuming you do quality work. Like these are table stakes. And if you've got that right, then hey man, work hard. That 8 to 5 or whatever the hours need to be.
Yeah.
And then the rest, like literally have a belief God's got the night shift. And so that was a big thing for me. And so I share that to say the yes, no's. I mean, I don't have this perfect, man. I'm a roller coaster. If I ever come out with a book, it's usually because I've screwed something up.
Yeah.
I wrote Win at Home First because I lost at home first. I wrote my second book, Rise and Go, because I got knocked down in a valley.
Oh man, but that's like you said with the wisdom. That's what we want to hear is, okay, Cory's been through it. This is why he wrote the book. And I actually wanted to talk to you about that too, of just the vulnerability of, and for anyone listening, obviously go pick up his book, Win at Home First and Rise and Go. But Cory, when I was reading the Win at Home First, you're so vulnerable in the book just about your past and your marriage and your kids and everything. And was it hard for you to put that in there? And then also, what has it done since, like from the stories and the people that are reading it that know your story?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the vulnerability piece. For those that still grab the book. There's other things in there, but those
There's a
who,
lot.
So I had an affair early on in my marriage, which obviously was a stupid move and dumb thing to do. But I can say my wife and I are celebrating 27 years of marriage this summer.
Let's
So that's
go.
amazing.
Amazing.
It's awesome. And but anyways, what when the night I heard this audible come clean in my affair, I also heard you need to hand over your story for a greater story. I didn't know what that phrase meant at that time. And fast forward a few years, I just learned in my quiet time, unpacking, hand over your story for a greater story was now I need to start sharing my story with others. And so I did, and I have been, and I will continue to do it. And what has it done? It's restored marriages. It's saved marriages. I think it's protected people from going down the wrong path before they even got that far. I mean, I'll even share. I was around a campfire. This is a few years ago. I was around a campfire and a bunch of guys, and one guy was, he said, how did your affair start? And I said, so I don't know. I said, I think when they said, I like your new shirt. And I was like, whoa. Oh, someone's paying attention. Maybe I'll start taking my identity, my worth to that person. Everybody laughed. Like when I said my shirt, like the guy, everyone just erupted. Like, that's so funny. No, I'm serious. Like, how did it really start? And I'm like, I think that's probably how it started. Like, I really don't know how it started, but I am pretty, that's how anything starts like that. Man, it's one little thing that leads you down this path of, there's a lot of listeners who are probably engaging with porn. It started with looking at Instagram pictures and then wanting more. There's guys on here that are doing too much gambling.
Mm-hmm.
It started with fantasy football or started with something. It's just, we're making choices every single day that are causing us to go one direction or the other. And so it's making choices that are intentional. But back to my story around the campfire, I made that comment. I think it was the shirt. Guys laughed. A couple weeks later, a guy who was around that fire pit calls me. He goes, "Dude, you're not going to believe what just happened." And I said, "With what?" He goes, remember a couple weeks ago you said the campfire and it was a shirt and everyone laughed? And I said, "Yeah, I totally remember that." And he goes, "My hairstylist just says, I really like your new shirt." And I said, "Let me ask you a question. Is she attractive?" And he goes, "Yes." I said, "You need a new hairstylist." He goes, "I thought the same thing."
Wow.
And so he's getting a new hairstyle. He got a new hairstylist. But it's one of those deals where that was a choice that my buddy made to say, whoa, whoa, oh, this was a trigger for somebody else. I think it could be a trigger for me. I'm out. And so hand over your story for a greater story was just that is, hey, I'm going to share where it's appropriate. I'm not always throwing this story around.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've had some cooler connections along the way. And so just, yeah, you feel, just feels the right thing to share. But I just don't do it all the time because, it doesn't always make sense. But when it
Mhm.
does, it's like, man, someone needs to hear it. Someone can help. So I've gotten DMs, I've gotten LinkedIn DMs, I've gotten emails of how it's helped or whatever it could be. And that's amazing. That's what it's about. So,
Man, that's everything too, because when you let's take a podcast format, it's most of the time it's very surface level, right? And one of the big things that we try and do is go deep, and we go way below the surface. And some of our best, most impactful guests have dove deep into the hardships of how their business is failing and how their marriage is crumbling and how they they don't have the answer right now. And that is just because it's real, right? And people listening right now, we don't want a structured like question A, question B, question C. We want the real humans to show that we are broken, but also everyone is broken. And how can we become better? How can we work on ourselves? And that's just what I love about the book you put out, the podcast. Obviously, it's very faith focused as a foundation. And as a believer myself, that's where it starts. And to be able to freely talk about that is just such a beautiful thing on your podcast, on our podcast, and just to show people that that is really the one truth and what we're striving for. And it's really really cool that you're willing and able to share your story, and then also how it's been going in every chapter after, and how it's continuing to get better and continuing to move forward. But you're still, all of us are still going to fall down, and we just got to keep going and keep getting back up. And I think that's, like, obviously you're not my coach, but I would assume that that's why you're such a good coach, because a good coach has been through it and they aren't afraid to talk about that, and they help the person that's on the other side of the table bring that out of them as well, and facing it, being aware of it, and yeah, just how do we become better?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I do think if anyone is thinking about getting a coach out there, man, find a coach that is both highly encouraging, but also high challenge. It's going to hold you accountable. That is going to, yeah, just kind of speak the truth. You just don't need a rah rah person. That's what mentors are.
Yeah.
But you also just don't need someone who's high challenge. You need someone that's cheering you on, encouraging you, sending you texts of prayers.
Yeah.
Because leadership is lonely at the top. Well, actually, anywhere. Leadership, I mean, it's just hard. Life's hard.
Yeah, and uh, I brought that up, gosh, it was probably months ago, but I'm a big fan of you people listening pay for a coach, because we can have mentors all over and that's great, and have free coaching advice and YouTube and things like that, but I'm a big believer in paying for a coach. And that is just somebody that's willing to sit down with you, and they have a program and you are paying them to coach you. And in my experience, that is the best ROI you can get, is paying for a coach. But also there's that level of commitment from them, because now that they're being compensated for their business, it's like we are 100% focused in here. And like I let people pick my brain or whatever all the time, and I will always do that. But when it's a paid sit down coaching, it's totally different. So, and Corey, I was going to ask about that too. I know you mentioned it earlier in the episode, but I didn't want to breeze by it. Your Rise community. Can you talk more about that and what that is and how people get involved and if it would make sense for anyone listening to get involved, if you don't mind touching on that?
A little over a year and a half ago, I found myself on some coaching calls say, "Hey, man, you to these one-on-one clients, you should meet so and so. I think you guys would hit it off." So that was going on in my mind, and then I also just had more people reaching out for coaching, and they're below my price point. And but I was like, I would love for them to hear this,
Yeah.
but I don't. I can't do that anymore. We talked about earlier, like the low margin projects, higher margin projects in coaching. Even though my costs are very low as far as I don't have equipment, things like that. But you do the math. If I double the price, I can coach half the people.
Yeah.
Well, when you're first starting out coaching, you say yes to everyone at a low price point. Before you know it, your calendar's full. And you can't travel, you can't see your family, you can't do content creation. So I end up raising my pricing to free up my calendar space. Well, in that process, I was like, man, I want to help others. Plus, I wanted my one-on-ones to get to know each other. And it just was put on my heart to do a community. And so we launched the community last January. So we're about 15 months in. It's called Rise Community, rise-community.com. But it is for men who want to win at work, home, and in their faith. And we provide content every single Monday. It's content I use in my one-on-one or insights and frameworks I'm using my one-on-one coaching. Bring it to the calls. So everyone is learning this content that they can then go take back to their teams or apply in their life. There's also breakout sessions. And we also have once a month, we have keynote speakers
Okay.
that come in. And it's just been a blast. And so if you're looking to invest in yourself, but also invest in others, I mean, I think part of the secret here is not just, hey, I'm doing all the talking. It's the wisdom in the group.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I hear all the time, like, oh, so-and-so DM'd me inside our app. That's really encouraging. I need to hear it. Or so-and-so stopped by when he was traveling and I got to meet him. Man, that
Yeah.
was really life-giving. And it's like, wow, that's awesome. And so it's getting a life of its own, which is fantastic. And so anyways, if you're looking for community, this is not a small group Bible study. Yes, there's faith in it.
hmm
If you're looking for a community that's faith-based, also business, this isn't business networking because we're also talking home and faith. It's just kind of solving this like three-legged stool that's not really out there as far as faith, home, and work.
Yeah.
And so
Man,
just loving it.
I love that. And we'll put the link in the description too. And
Thank you.
so for anyone listening that is interested, go check it out. You said it was rise-community.com.
Community.com.
Perfect.
Yep.
Rise-community.com and go check it out there. We'll put the link in the description. And yeah, really, Cory, as you're talking about it, what I hear is just if you're a man that is looking to surround themselves with other men that will inspire you to become a better man yourself, like that's the community you've built. And as we were talking about earlier, sometimes it's not always in your local community. You may have to go elsewhere to find that. And it's really, really amazing that you have this community and the consistency of it, right? It's not just a once a quarter or once a month thing. There's consistency. So for those of you guys listening, go check it out. And then, Cory, what would be so if somebody was interested in coaching, are you still taking on coaching clients or is that are you full?
I do still take on clients if I end up talking to someone and they can, fit the one-on-one,
Yeah.
kind of investment level. Great, let's do it. If not, but they still kind of want to be in my system, if you will. I've got coaches on my team
Awesome. Love
that
it.
are coaching people. And we're doing the home and work thing, and it's going great. Oh, and the lowest tier is Rise. So I
Yeah.
mean, but yeah, DM me on LinkedIn or email me. I'd love to find a place for you. Anyone who
Yeah.
wants help and wants to grow and wants to invest in themselves, I want to help.
Dude, I'm all for that. And you heard him, guys. Shoot him a DM on LinkedIn. Even if you're just listening to this podcast, you just want to give him a shout out and shoot him a message. Just let him know. If you guys don't have LinkedIn, jump on there. It's one of the best platforms you can be on. And Cory, obviously, that's how you and I started communicating too. Is we had been connected for so long, and then you just shot me a message, and here we are. It's just been absolutely incredible.
Yeah. I shot you a DM because every time I saw you, you're in pictures, you're smiling, looked like you knew the people in the photos. I was like, this guy's awesome. I don't even know him, but I want to get to know him. So that was the DM. It just felt, just the prompting to reach out. I'm glad I did.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. And I guess that goes to say too, if anyone has that on their heart too, of just like, man, that person's got such a good smile, or that person is so positive, or that person, I'm thinking about them, let them know, because gosh, they're probably going through a tough time right now, or having a tough day, or just everything is just bad news, bad news. And you get a message like that unsolicited just because you're thinking about them, it's one of the best things you can do, and it's so quick, it's so easy. So just be quick on the trigger with that. Just if you're thinking about somebody right now, shoot them a message. And you hear it all the time when somebody passes away. Dang, I wish I would have called them. I wish I would have shot them a
Mhm.
text. Dang, I
Mhm.
wish it's just all of that. So it be quick on the trigger, be kind to people. Don't don't always reach out with bad news. And Corey, I learned that with our team, right? Because we have a team at Phaser, and it's like when I reach out, I don't always want it to be bad news. So I try to reach out with good news and just checking in on people, and not always just, hey, something's wrong.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
No, it's so
good
good.
stuff. Well, Corey, unbelievable. Thank you so much for your time on the podcast. I know our listeners are going to absolutely love it. As you guys heard, definitely reach out to Corey on LinkedIn. Go connect with him. Go buy his book, Win at Home First. And of course, buy his book, Rise and Go. Go listen to his podcast. We got a pretty sweet episode coming out June
Oh, let's
24th
go.
on his podcast. Come on. And then, man, I'm just so excited to just continue building this relationship with you, and continue this on. I'm excited to have you back on the podcast, let's say a year from now, see how things are changing, see how things are moving. So, Corey, thank you for your time. Thank you for all that you do. And we will see you on the next one.
Hey, man. Thank you, Luke. Thanks, listeners.
Cheers.